just an enormous privilege to be here. I am honored, I'm excited to be a finalist for the president of this great university. Missoula is a place that we love. As many of you know, my wife grew up here. It's a place we love to come back to. Whether it's hiking up the M with our kids, taking them over to the carousel, to the Iron Horse, to the numerous great restaurants here. This is a community that we know is a community that we love. And if you would, I know this is supposed to be me talking about me, and I'm going to use that 15 minutes, but I actually just want to share a perspective on you. Because over the past several months, as I've spoken to literally dozens of people about this opportunity, about this university, what the next president needs to do. I've spoken to students, I've spoken to faculty, I've spoken to community members, I've spoken to business leaders. You hear about the challenges that people see, that people are feeling. Everyone has a little bit of a different view of how best to address them. But the one thing that is common across every person I've talked to is passion. Passion for this place, passion for its students, passion for the research that comes out of here, and just a deep hunger and energy to see it succeed. And not everywhere has that, okay? So again, this is supposed to be about me, but as an outsider coming in and talking to you, I think it's easy in times of challenge to lose sight of what makes a place great. And so I would just tell you from this outsider's point of view, Grizz Nation is strong, it is powerful, and whoever is your next president is going to count on that energy to chart the next chapter in this institution's future. So I think it's an honor to be here in a place with that much passion. So first off, thank you. Now, just briefly spending a few minutes, I think the first question is, why higher education? Why, as a less traditional candidate, is this where I really want to focus? And the answer is simple. I believe that universities today are more important for this community, for this state, for this country, than arguably they have ever been. So if you look at our world today, there is a lot of interesting and exciting stuff happening. A lot of it stemming from dramatic increases in computing power, the use of data, artificial intelligence. As the parent of some kids who are going to be driving in a few years, I am personally very eager to see autonomous vehicles emerge. And if you think about Watson and you consider the implications for artificial intelligence across many different fields, it's both exciting, a little bit unnerving. And you're seeing disruption and change really across the board in industries. I put 3 logos on this page. And some of you've heard this, but I think it's really interesting. If you look at those 3 companies, you have the world's largest taxi company that owns no vehicles. You have the world's largest accommodation provider that owns no buildings. And you have the world's most popular media company that creates no content. And you see change and adaptation come into higher ed as well. Obviously, I would agree that MOOCs are great. There's probably a little more hype than's justified there. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity to combine a great on-campus experience with cutting-edge digital capabilities. I think that is a tremendous opportunity. But all this opportunity and change is happening at a time of incredibly low public discourse in this country, arguably lower than it's been since the Civil War. And faith in institutions is sagging, and we're seeing that even creeping into the world of higher ed, as we're seeing in polls this month. The good news is you have a student population nationally that is more civically engaged than it has been in 50 years. and you're seeing continued advances in research across the board. I think it's tremendously exciting. You're seeing biochemists figuring out new ways to generate power, physicians releasing gene therapy to treat cancer. You're seeing philosophers who are writing new ethical codes for human-robot interaction. And all of that is happening either fully or in part at a university. I've said to a few people in various conversations today, a quote that I love is that democracy needs to be born anew every generation, and education is the midwife. I firmly believe that. And I look at the mission of this institution to produce informed, creative, lifelong learners who can tackle questions that we don't yet even know to ask, to produce cutting-edge research, and to be a forum for academic inquiry, to be a place where free and respectful debate of issues is not just allowed, it's cherished, and to be an institution that creates ethical and effective leaders to guide this nation. That's what an institute of higher education does. That's why this institution and institutions like it are so important for the world. So I think the natural question then is, well, why me? Why do the skills that I've built apply to this? And I'd offer that I submit my candidacy to this community with an acknowledgement that I have a lot to learn. I don't come into this thinking that I have all the answers. I would offer that I do have some qualities and skills to offer that could be effective. And when you talk to university presidents, as I have, and when you read the literature on what they say makes them effective, these are largely the skills that I've built as a leader, as a student and a practitioner of leadership over the past 2 decades. The skills to work with a diverse group of stakeholders, to align on a clear and an intentional strategy, to build the operating processes to implement that strategy, to manage a budget effectively, to build a diverse and high-functioning executive team, to foster creativity and entrepreneurial in an environment in which people are encouraged to take smart risks and try new things. And importantly, to communicate passionately and tirelessly about the benefits of your organization and work to secure the resources needed to make it successful. Those are the skills that I've built as a special forces officer, as a business leader, as the leader of a technology business. But I want to be clear that the president, your president, is just one member of a team. And as you get to know me more, you'll continue to hear me talk about teams. I'm a big teams person. And the successful leader of this university is going to build a team of interdisciplinary excellence. And specifically, a great provost, and working very closely with a tremendous group of deans and leaders across the faculty and the staff, the student body, and the community to chart the next phase for this university. If you're looking for somebody who has all the answers, or as I've told a couple people, is going to walk off down from Mount Sentinel with the exact strategy that the university needs to soar to new heights, I'm not sure you're going to find that person, and I would posit that you don't necessarily want what worked somewhere else or what worked in the past. You have a lot of great answers here. The leader that will be effective, I believe, with this institution is one who can harness the tremendous energy of this community and bring it together to chart the way ahead. So the question then becomes, well, what makes this university unique? What are those great assets of this special place? And I think this is, again, a person who has spoken to a lot of folks, who's done some research. But when you look at just the world-class programs that you have here, in the natural sciences, the #1 ranked wildlife biology program in the country. An ecology faculty I just read that was rated as the most productive from a research standpoint in the country. A journalism school that's a top 10 school, great biomedical programs, terrific creative writing. I want to be careful because I think there's a ton that I could mention, and I don't want to unnecessarily leave them out, but there are a great number of programs that already are or could be international leaders, and you really want to amplify those. I think the second piece is a great story here. The research growth, 88 million last year, just tremendous progress in building the research prowess of this institution. The third point, I think, is just a tremendous asset for this university, and that's this idea of a multidisciplinary liberal arts education. I'm a product of this. West Point is, maybe contrary to what some people might think, at its core, it's a liberal arts college meant to provide a transformative educational experience. It does it pretty well. When I was there on faculty, it was rated as the #1 institution in the country at doing so. I also had the chance to go to Oxford and complement my experience at West Point. I like to say that West Point taught me how to solve problems, and Oxford taught me how to ask the right questions. And that combination has been tremendously valuable for me. I was joking earlier today, look, there wasn't a course that I could sign up for and take at West Point or at Oxford on how to live in a grass hut and work with a group of Filipino Marines to bring stability to a small jungle island. Nor was there a course that I could take that taught me, say, hey, look, you got a 125-year-old industrial company, as GE is. How are you going to help that company build a software business that can compete and win in the digital world against startups? But the skills that I relied on, the experience that I relied on, was that liberal arts foundation, multidisciplinary approach. It's been tremendously valuable to me. I think it's a huge differentiator, and I think this institution can do that incredibly well. Look, the power of place, I've already talked about the passion here, but when you combine that with things like the Mansfield Center, like the Franke Global Leadership Institute, you can have place-based leaders with global impact. There's a great opportunity for that. Look, the student engagement here, the alumni network, the community partnership. Look, this place is full on a Friday afternoon, and there are overflow rooms. That's energy. That's tremendous potential that next president's going to harness. Okay, and so I think, in short, this is a fantastic platform for growth. The question then becomes, okay, how do you unlock it? What do you do? And this is a little bit of a busy slide, so I apologize, but I may be going back to my faculty roots here and talking a little bit of how I think about this. And the equation there I have at the top, I like to say effective strategy, it's a great quote, is a function of value differentiation and disciplined execution. So, value differentiation. Look, a university, to be clear, is not a business. And I think people look at, they say, hey, you're a business guy, you're just going to run this. No. A university is not a business. There are principles from business that are applicable to ensure a university meets its objectives, but a university is different from a business. But I think what's illustrative in the way I think about this university is how does it create value? And who does it create value for? And I would tell you the three pillars of teaching, research, and service interact to serve really three main groups of stakeholders, one being students. So how do we provide a return on investment? How do we enable students to not just get that first job, but as Drew Faust, the president of Harvard, would say, get their sixth job? How do we enable whole of person and experiential learning, leadership? how do we enable those students to benefit from the research that's happening here, to learn the basics of inquiry and objective analysis. Those are really important skills. That's the value that we provide for students. For the community, I think it's pretty clear, right? We want to provide a terrific, talented workforce that can be lifelong learners, right? That's what we want to provide. We also want to provide applicable research, as well as an ecosystem to fuel great businesses. I don't see Scott Wittenberg here, but he made fun of me earlier. He said, "Man, do you always wear funny socks?" And I said, "Well, these are from Vim and Vigor, a great company here that I think is a result of the ecosystem that's created from this university." And you think about society. What this place does for society in building ethical, effective leaders, advancing the frontiers of knowledge, and spurring economic development. Very, very important. And so, if selected, how would I think about this? I think there's been a lot of great work already that's happened between the SPCC and the strategic vision that's been developed. And I know the APAS process is ongoing right now. So the question becomes, how does the new president align around a strategy and actually get it out there? I think the first step for any new person coming into a job is listen and learn. Okay? And this is something I like to say, that I was given 2 eyes and 2 ears, but only 1 mouth for a reason. And you got to listen twice as much as you talk. And this is not a one-time process. This is an ongoing process. I've already talked to lots of people, and I like to listen and learn and get to know people in scenarios and in situations where they're comfortable talking. I went on a run with a faculty member this morning to talk, and we're going to go on another run with some faculty tomorrow. I love, if I were here, doing walks up to the M with community members and talking about, hey, their view of the university, what we need to do. One of the leaders I admire most is a guy by the name of Brian Stevenson. He's a tremendous civil rights lawyer and social justice activist. And he says that great leaders get proximate. They get proximate. They understand truly the people that they're serving. And that's how I like to lead. I think the third piece is align on strategy. And this has to be both collaborative and intentional. And by that, we have to get a shared agreement around this is the strategy that we want to put in place for this university. And we have to say what we're going to be great at. And that might involve saying what we might not do. And it has to be intentional. Okay? Once you have that agreement, then you got to make decisions and implement. And you got to communicate. I put it 3 times because you have to communicate internally to students, to faculty, to staff. You have to communicate externally to potential students, to students who are getting to understand the great value that this place provides. And you have to communicate to donors, to alumni, to legislatures, to secure the resources that we need to implement this strategy. And I think the final piece is we have to create a culture of mutual accountability for the excellence of this institution. The place is 125. This place has been here 125 years. It's older than anyone in this room. And it will be here for another 7 generations. And everyone in this room is you are engaged in this process. You are passionate about it because you're spending a Friday afternoon wanting to talk about this place. We are stewards of this institution to make it successful for another 800 years. And we owe it to the people who came before us and the people who are going to come after us to make it great. And I think that is the way we achieve this aspirational mission I have written here. University of Montana should aim to be the premier flagship university of the mountain. It's not easy, but why not us?